It began on the day the Galactic Council voted to banish all humans from Council space. A day that would later be remembered as the moment the galaxy unknowingly pulled the pin from a silent grenade. The Council chamber shook with arguments, echoing with alien voices filled with fear, jealousy, and frustration. They said humans were expanding too fast, that human science moved too quickly, that human medicine was too advanced, that human ships were too adaptable, that humans asked too many questions and broke too many limits. The older species feared them deeply but never admitted it openly. Instead, they disguised that fear behind words like balance, order, and galactic safety. They displayed charts showing human growth, maps showing human trade routes, and statistics showing human influence spreading far beyond Council predictions. So the Council cast the vote. A vote written in cold ink and colder intentions. A vote declaring that every human world, every human station, every human colony must be removed from Council space in 30 days. No debate, no hearing, no appeal. The order was simple: leave or be removed by force. The galaxy expected explosions. They expected riots. They expected the unpredictable, emotional humans to scream, fight, threaten war, or cry for mercy. They expected humans to do anything except what happened next. Humanity didn't respond. Not a shout, not a whisper, not even a question. Their ambassadors simply bowed their heads, turned off their translators, and walked out of the chamber without a single argument. That silence frightened the Council more than any war declaration would have. The banishment orders were delivered the next morning, and the galaxy watched with morbid curiosity, waiting for the chaos. But what they saw was something else, something far more unnatural, something far more terrifying. Humans left silently. Entire human worlds shut down overnight. Cities that once glowed with lights and laughter went dark. Streets emptied. Ports closed. Factories stopped. Orbital platforms powered down and slipped quietly into hyperspace without a farewell. Shipyards that once worked non-stop suddenly went silent, as if someone had unplugged the universe. Human colonies that were once homes to millions emptied in perfect order. No struggle, no panic, no resistance, only silence. That silence traveled like a cold wind through the stars. The galaxy watched humans pack their history in boxes, shut their doors, and leave without leaving behind a single trace of complaint. In less than 30 days, human space inside the Council's borders had become a ghostlands of empty skies and hollow cities. And as the very last human ship left the biggest human colony, Terraris Prime, something happened that the Council would never forget. The human ambassador appeared on every public screen. Not with threats, not with anger, not with sadness, just calm eyes and a quiet voice. You will learn. Then the screens went black, and the last human ship disappeared into the void. At first, the galaxy celebrated. They held festivals. They cheered in public squares. Politicians gave speeches claiming they had saved the galaxy from human influence. News networks broadcast victory parades. Children painted murals showing the galaxy free of human expansion. Many species felt relieved, believing that without humans, things would finally return to a calm, predictable order. But that celebration did not last long. Not even 7 days. Cracks began to appear almost immediately. Cracks nobody expected. Cracks that spread quietly, dangerously, and uncontrollably. The first signs were small, minor glitches, minor delays, tiny failures across trade routes that humans once maintained. Alien merchants noticed that without human freighters, shipments arrived slower or didn't arrive at all. Planets that relied on human supply chains realized they had been depending on humanity far more than they admitted. Human couriers were the fastest, most reliable, most fearless travelers of the star lanes. Without them, deliveries piled up, shortages spread, and prices rose. Then the second cracks appeared: disease outbreaks. Human doctors had once handled 50% of all galactic emergency medical missions. Their medical ships carried technology no other species fully understood. They had cure ships, mobile labs, nanotech ambulances, and deep healing stations. They saved millions every year. And now they were gone. Entire sectors began reporting medical crises. A plague broke out on a crowded station, and for the first time in a century, no human medship arrived to help. A council world requested doctors, but the human mednet remained silent. Alien doctors tried their best, but without human biotech, recovery rates dropped. Patients died. Panic grew. The third cracks appeared in the infrastructure. The galaxy quickly learned that humanity had been quietly repairing things for decades. Star lanes, energy grids, satellite networks, beacon relays. Humans never bragged about it. They simply saw something broken and fixed it. Now things stayed broken. Navigation systems glitched across multiple sectors. Communication relays flickered in and out. Power grids on older planets began collapsing. Whole regions began experiencing blackouts. The Council demanded engineers to fix it, only to discover something humiliating. Most of the galaxy's repair logs, system updates, and maintenance records had been written by humans, and humans had taken them when they left. Still, the Council insisted everything was fine. It's temporary, they claimed. We don't need humans. Yet every passing day worsened. Energy shortages spread. Trade slowed. Medicine weakened. Crime increased. Even the galaxy's mood felt different. Like a star had dimmed somewhere deep inside every species that once worked alongside humans. The final sign of collapse came from the far border. A small research outpost sending a frantic message. There are ships here. Unknown, hostile. Please respond. Please send help. Someone, anyone, then silence. Total silence. The Council brushed it off, saying it was a pirate raid. But then a second outpost vanished. And a third. And a fourth. And suddenly, entire border sectors went silent. The Council sent fleets to investigate, but half those fleets malfunctioned because the humans who once kept the systems running were gone. The fleets that did arrive found debris, burned stations, and signs of brutal attacks. Someone was coming. Someone old. Someone familiar. The galaxy trembled as a terrible truth resurfaced. Long ago, humanity had told stories of a species called the Vroth, ancient predators who roamed the galaxy before the Council existed. Humanity had fought them. Humanity had stopped them. Humanity had kept them at bay. Without humans, the Vroth had returned. And the galaxy had no shield anymore. The Council panicked. Worlds protested. Thousands screamed for help. And finally, the Council admitted the truth to itself. They needed humans. They needed the species they had cast out. They needed the species they forced into silence. But when the Council tried to reach human space with emergency messages, something terrifying happened. The messages bounced back. Not because humans refused to answer. Not because their systems were offline. But because human space was sealed behind an enormous energy barrier. A barrier that wasn't built to keep the galaxy out. A barrier built to keep something inside. The Council sent scout ships to investigate, but not one returned. Then whispers spread across the galaxy like cold wind. Human space is alive. The barrier breathes. The energy signature is not natural. This is not defense. They are building something. And beneath that fear sat an even deeper fear. Humans did not leave the galaxy because they were scared. Humans did not leave because they were defeated. Humans left because they wanted space to do something they couldn't do inside Council borders. Something big. Something silent. Something the galaxy wasn't ready for. Meanwhile, across the stars, alien children asked their parents, "Where did the humans go?" And the parents, trembling with guilt, whispered, "Far away." But even the children felt something strange in the air, as if a storm was gathering in a place no one could see. A storm waiting for the right moment to rise. A storm that had a name whispered in fear: humanity. And as the first Vroth warships tore through another frontier world, and as terrified screams echoed across the distressed channels, and as the Council realized it had made the biggest mistake in galactic history, one truth settled over every species like a shadow. Across the galaxy, the cracks left by humanity's absence widened into deep wounds that no species knew how to heal, and every passing day reminded the Council of how much they had depended on humans without ever admitting it. Because, Now ships drifted powerless in the dark between stars, medical stations collapsed under diseases they could not treat, and entire planets were running out of supplies they once received from human freighters that fearlessly crossed dangerous star lanes nobody else dared to travel. Panic spread from world to world like a silent fire, and soon even the proudest species, those who once voted eagerly to banish humanity, were forced to admit the truth to themselves. Life simply did not function without humans. On the commercial world of Aranth Prime, warehouses overflowed with goods that nobody could distribute because the only pilots who understood the complex navigation algorithms for the Aranth star tunnels were humans. Shipments piled up, markets crashed, and riots broke out as citizens screamed that the Council had betrayed them. On the medical moon of Viriax, a virus mutated into something lethal, and doctors begged for help as thousands fought for breath, whispering one question over and over: where are the humans? Why aren't they coming? Because for generations, whenever sickness struck, whenever disaster hit, it was always humans who arrived first, their medships glowing like hope in the darkness. And now hope was gone. Even the great cities grew dimmer as energy networks, once maintained quietly by human engineers, started shutting down section by section. It was as if every star in the galaxy had begun to flicker, and the galaxy finally noticed the darkness spreading. But the most terrifying part came not from failing machines or dying worlds, but from the far borders, where the Vroth returned. Their ships appeared like jagged shadows cutting through the void, devouring everything in their path, leaving behind only ruins and terrified whispers. Sector 9 fell in hours. The colony of Vezra fell in minutes. Entire populations vanished without a single distress call. And for the first time in centuries, the Council realized they had no army capable of stopping the Vroth. Their cruisers were too slow, their weapons too weak, their shields too outdated. Humans had once trained the Council fleets, upgraded their systems, corrected their strategies, and warned them many times, about the Vrotha's growing strength beyond the edge of known space. But the Council dismissed those warnings, believing humanity exaggerated dangers to gain influence. Now they understood the truth in the ugliest way possible. The Council called an emergency meeting, and the chamber that once laughed at humans was now filled with trembling voices, shaking hands, and eyes filled with regret. "We must contact them," the Sauralian Prime Minister said, his voice cracking. "Without humans, we cannot win this war." "We tried," another counselor whispered. "They don't answer. Their space is sealed." "Then force our way in," someone shouted. But fleet commanders shook their heads. "Every ship we send toward human borders disappears." Those words spread through the chamber like ice water. Silence followed, deep, suffocating silence, until the Council speaker finally admitted what none of them wanted to say aloud. "We drove away the only species that stood between us and destruction." Meanwhile, across thousands of planets, ordinary citizens began begging their leaders to bring humans back. Protests filled the streets. Children held signs saying, "We miss the humans," while their parents cried at the sight of failing hospitals and burning cities. Some worlds even sent emissaries toward human territory, hoping to apologize, hoping to plead for help, only to find the massive barrier surrounding all human space. The barrier hummed like a sleeping beast, pulsing with energy that no scientist could explain. Bent light, it distorted space, prevented scans from seeing inside. It made even the bravest pilots tremble. And worst of all, it felt alive. When the first envoy approached, the barrier rippled like a warning before gently pushing their ship away, not destroying it, but refusing entry like a parent closing a door on a child who had broken trust too deeply. The envoy sent one desperate message: "Humans are inside. They hear us, but they remain silent." That silence became the new fear, because silence meant choice. Silence meant purpose. Silence meant humanity was not hiding out of fear, but out of preparation. Rumors exploded across the galaxy. Humans built a weapon. Humans are creating a new fleet. Humans found something ancient. Humans unlocked something they were not allowed to use before. Alien children asked their families, "Did the humans leave forever?" And the saddest part was, nobody knew. On the council world of Maris, the last human-built navigation system failed, and the night sky dimmed permanently. Citizens stood outside staring at the darkness, crying softly, whispering that everything felt colder without the humans' light. Even the stars themselves seemed to fade. Meanwhile, the Vroth grew stronger. Their ships poured across the galaxy like a spreading storm, and for the first time in recorded history, the Council officially declared, "We cannot defend ourselves." On that day, fear spread everywhere. It spread through spaceports, through homes, through military bases, through the council chamber, through classrooms where children asked, "Why did we push the humans away?" And the adults had no answer. They only had guilt, because deep inside, everyone knew the truth. They banished the one species that always saved them. And now, with the Vroth approaching, with entire sectors burning, with machines failing, with diseases spreading, and with hope fading, every species looked toward the sealed human space, praying for a miracle. And somewhere behind that glowing barrier, watching the galaxy collapse into fear, humanity remained silent. Not weak, not defeated, but waiting, watching, preparing. And the galaxy finally understood why the human ambassador had whispered those haunting words. The council chamber, once loud with arrogance and self-importance, now felt like a tomb where every breath echoed with guilt and every whispered word carried the weight of approaching extinction. Because no matter how hard the council tried to hide the truth, the galaxy knew they were falling apart without humans. Representatives who once mocked humanity now sat hunched over their seats, their hands trembling, their eyes red from sleepless nights spent reading reports that began with the same horrifying line, "Another system has fallen." Screens around the chamber flickered with maps showing vast red zones where the Vroth had already consumed entire sectors. Their attacks swift, merciless, and impossible to predict. Every day, more stars went dark. Every day, more colonies vanished. Every day, the Council's fleets suffered crushing defeats because the strategies, the upgrades, the tech the humans once provided were gone, leaving their ships exposed like children trying to fight storms with wooden shields. The council speaker slammed his fist on the table, trying to look strong, but his voice cracked as he said, "We must contact them again. We must." But the room remained silent because they all knew the truth. Every attempt to reach human space had been met with that immense barrier pulsing like a heartbeat, refusing to open, refusing to answer, refusing to acknowledge the cries of a galaxy that once pushed humans away. Even the bravest commanders admitted they felt something watching them from behind that barrier, not hostile, not friendly, but something ancient and powerful that did not forget betrayal. Desperation finally broke the Council's pride. They sent their top diplomats to the human border, bowing in front of the barrier as if begging a god to return. But the barrier only hummed softly, almost sadly, as if saying, "Not yet." The diplomats collapsed to their knees, tears streaming as they pleaded for forgiveness, pleaded for help, pleaded for humanity to speak, to do anything, but the silence remained. And that silence was worse than any weapon. It echoed through every world, through every street, through every home, making entire populations realize that humans were not returning simply because someone asked. Humans would return only when they chose. Meanwhile, the galaxy's collapse accelerated. On the core world of Vexery Prime, the once beautiful crystal cities flickered as their power grids failed. Children shivered in cold homes while their parents stared up at the sky, whispering, "Why did we push the humans away? Why?" On the planet Brylan, factories that humans once helped design began overheating and exploding, sending black smoke across the atmosphere while workers ran into the streets screaming, "Where are the human engineers? Why can't anyone fix this?" Hospitals ran out of medicine. Star lanes collapsed. Communications glitched across entire regions. Even the military academies admitted that every war simulation without humans ended the same way, with defeat. Citizens protested across hundreds of planets, carrying signs that said, "Bring back the humans. We were wrong. Undo the banishment. And most heartbreaking of all, please forgive us." Some species held ceremonies, placing candles in windows to symbolize human starships, hoping somehow humanity could see the soft glow across the void. Priests prayed at temples. Scientists cried over failed formulas. Soldiers stared at their weapons knowing they weren't enough. And throughout all this suffering, the Vroth continued their hunt. Their ships tore through systems like blades of fire, leaving behind only ashes and terrified transmissions begging for help. A Vroth dreadnought broadcast a chilling message across the stars. Your protectors are gone. We have returned for what is ours. When that message reached the council, leaders trembled visibly. The council speaker whispered, "Humans warned us about them, and we didn't listen." Not long after, a message arrived from the remaining outposts. The Vroth are moving towards central space. We cannot hold them. We will not last another day. The entire chamber went silent again. Not the comfortable silence of routine politics, but a suffocating silence filled with the awareness that this might be the final cycle of the galaxy as they knew it. And then something happened that broke the pride of every species present. A council member, one of the strongest, most respected, and most proud leaders, stood slowly, walked to the center of the chamber, dropped to his knees and bowed his head. His voice trembled as he whispered, "We must apologize. We must beg for their forgiveness." The room watched, stunned, as one by one, other leaders began standing, walking forward, and kneeling beside him, their faces pale with shame. Soon the entire chamber was kneeling, united not by strength but by regret. "We wronged humanity," one whispered. "We drove away those who saved us," another said. "We treated them as a threat when they were our greatest shield," a third whispered, covering her face as she cried. And then, with the weight of a dying galaxy pressing down on them, every member of the council repeated the words that echoed through every speaker in the chamber. "Humans, if you can hear us, we are sorry." But the barrier did not open. Human space remained silent, and that silence broke hearts across the stars. Because only then, only in that moment of complete despair, did the galaxy finally understand the message the humans had left behind. You will learn. And they were learning now, learning how fragile they truly were, learning how deeply they had depended on the humans they cast out, learning that humanity's silence was not weakness. It was judgment. A judgment they had earned. And as the Vroth fleet prepared to break through the next line of defense, every species could feel it in their bones. If humanity did not return soon, there would be nothing left to return to far beyond the outer rim, in the cold and forgotten edges of the galaxy where starlight barely reached. The Vroth armada moved like a growing storm, their ships shaped like jagged wounds in space, absorbing light instead of reflecting it, carrying a silence so unnatural that even scanners trembled when they tried to read them, because the Vroth did not fly with engines. They glided, as if pulled by hunger itself. When the first Vroth warship passed into a border system, the inhabitants didn't even have time to scream. Their sensors flickered, their comms died, and then the world simply vanished. The council received the distress signal 12 minutes too late. Unknown vessels, shields failing, requesting Huma, and then nothing. Total blackout. At first the council tried comforting themselves, claiming it was a pirate attack or a malfunction. But deep inside, they knew the truth. This was exactly what the humans had warned them about for years. And now, without humans to stop them, the Vroth spread like infection. System after system fell. Their worlds burned. Their stations shredded open like paper. Their fleets shattered without landing a single meaningful blow. The galaxy watched entire star sectors die on screens that flickered red with emergency signals. And every warning ended the same way. Silent static. In the city of Valaris, children cried as their skies turned orange from distant fires lighting the atmosphere. Their parents held them tight, whispering empty promises that the council will protect us. Even though everyone knew the council had no plan, no power, and no hope. On the military moon of Argoth, 4, commanders gathered around a holographic table showing the Vroth's path of destruction, trembling as they realized no defensive line could stop the approaching wave. A veteran general finally whispered the truth nobody dared say aloud. Humanity was the wall that held them back. Now the wall is gone. That truth cut deeper than any weapon. The council, filled with guilt and fear, sent messages to all allied worlds begging them to unite, begging them to stay calm. But panic spread faster than unity. Entire planets attempted evacuations. Ships overloaded with refugees fled in every direction. Millions were lost to hyperspace failures because nobody maintained their jump gates the way humans once did. Civilizations that had lived for 1,000 years now faced extinction in mere days. And as the Vroth drew closer to central space, the Council had no choice but to face the darkest realization of all. Even their strongest fleets were nothing without the humans who once upgraded them, repaired them, and taught them how to fight enemies like the Vroth. In desperation, the Council sent their last elite fleet, the Silver Line, to defend the Kalaris system. The fleet jumped into position, forming a shimmering wall of ships, their captains broadcasting brave but trembling speeches to their crews. Children on Kalaris watched from their rooftops as the fleet painted the sky with blue engine trails. For a moment, hope flickered. But when the Vroth arrived, hope died instantly. The Vroth ships tore through the Silver Line like claws through dust. Shields collapsed. Hulls split. Dozens of cruisers melted into glowing fragments. The fleet's commander, Admiral Soren, broadcast one final message as his flagship burned. To the humans, if you can hear us, please forgive us and save the children. His transmission ended in fire and Kalaris fell within hours. News of the massacre spread across the galaxy like a nightmare with no morning. Entire species broke into tears in public squares. Elders clung to each other in fear. Leaders held emergency gatherings in pitch-black rooms because their power grids were collapsing. The Council released a message admitting the truth. We cannot stop the Vroth. We have no strategy, no weapon, no technology capable of defeating them. Our only chance is the humans. But humans remained silent, and that silence felt heavier than death. On thousands of worlds, citizens once again turned toward the sealed human space, staring at the faint shimmering barrier in the night sky, whispering prayers and apologies as if humanity could somehow hear them through the void. Children left drawings of human starships in their windows. On the shattered remains of Kalaris Station, a dying mechanic used his final breath to whisper, "One human ship, just one, and we would have lived." But no ship came, and the galaxy finally understood the full meaning of the human ambassador's last words. You will learn. The Council learned. The people learned. Even the Vroth learned that the galaxy without humans was a feast without guards. And as the Vroth armada set course for the heart of civilization, preparing to consume the core worlds, every living being felt the same cold truth sink into their bones. Humanity had been the shield that stood between life and extinction, and the galaxy had thrown that shield away. Across the collapsing galaxy, the Council finally accepted that words, excuses, and regret were no longer enough, because the Vroth were not stopping, worlds were burning, and the screams of dying colonies echoed through every transmission channel like a reminder of the sin they all shared. The sin of banishing the one species that had saved them again and again without ever asking for anything in return. With nowhere left to run and no strength left to fight, the Council gathered its last diplomats and scientists, choosing the most desperate, fragile, and dangerous plan in their history. They would journey into human space, even if it meant death, even if it meant facing humanity's judgment. The envoy ship, a small silver cruiser named the Dawn Seeker, took off from the Council's capital under the eyes of billions watching their screens with silent prayers, parents holding their children tightly, elders whispering for forgiveness, soldiers saluting with trembling hands, because everyone knew this mission was not diplomatic. It was a plea for salvation. As the Dawn Seeker approached the human barrier, every sensor failed at once, every monitor flickered, and every crew member felt goosebumps race across their skin. The barrier pulsed like a living heartbeat, ancient and powerful, breathing with the slow rhythm of something not mechanical but almost alive. The pilot swallowed hard as the barrier stretched across the entire horizon like a wall of shimmering blue fire. "If they kill us," he whispered, "we deserve it." The envoy leader, an elder diplomat who once voted for humanity's banishment, bowed his head and whispered, "Open, please, for the sake of the galaxy." The ship drifted closer, and for a terrifying moment it seemed the barrier would reject them again, until the shimmering light rippled softly like a curtain in wind. Slowly, impossibly, a single thin opening appeared. The envoy gasped, "They're letting us in." But the opening was small, very small, just enough for one ship. It felt like humanity was saying, "Come in." But only you. The Dawn Seeker passed through, and the moment they crossed the barrier, the galaxy behind them vanished. The stars became sharper, brighter, more intense. Human space was different, cleaner, clearer, more alive. The crew stared in awe as they realized everything here was upgraded far beyond anything the Council understood. Human beacons floated in orbit like silent guardians, powered by energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Massive rings that glowed faint white rotated slowly around planets, sending ripples through space like controlled waves. The Envoy leader whispered, This is not the humanity we knew." As the ship approached Earth, their jaws dropped. Earth was surrounded by a gigantic structure, part shield, part engine, part something else entirely. A world-sized halo glowing with silver and blue light. Ships the size of moons drifted past, completely silent, their hulls marked with symbols the Council had never seen. A terrifying thought struck every envoy at the same time. Humans had not been idle. Humans had evolved. Humans had grown in the silence. Humans had prepared for something the Council never imagined. A human ship approached them, a sleek vessel with no visible engines, no windows, no weapons. Yet the crew felt an overwhelming presence from it, as if it watched them with invisible eyes. A voice appeared in their systems, calm and cold. "This is Terran Command. State your purpose." The envoy scrambled to respond. We come in peace. We come to beg for help." The Vroth, "We know," the human voice replied. "We have been watching." The words sent chills through every envoy. The Council diplomat took a deep breath. "We were wrong. The Council was wrong. Please, our worlds are dying. Innocent lives. Children. Entire species. We cannot stop them. Please, humanity, forgive us. Help us." Silence followed. A silence so long the envoy feared humanity had rejected them again. But then, another voice spoke. Not angry, not cruel, but ancient, controlled, and heavy with sorrow. "You banished us. You feared us. You cast us out after we protected you for centuries. And now you come to us again." The envoy broke into tears. "Please, we have nowhere else to turn." More silence. Then, slowly, the human ship spoke 3 words that shook the envoy to their core. "Follow us inside." The envoy followed, trembling, as the human escort guided them through the inner gates of Terran Command. A vast structure built inside the halo around Earth. The space inside was overwhelming. Thousands of human ships floated in organized silence, glowing with energy patterns unknown to the galaxy. Massive machines hummed like ancient titans waking from slumber. At the center of it all was a single structure, a black sphere that radiated gentle pulses of white light. It was beautiful and terrifying. The envoy whispered, "What is that?" The human voice answered calmly, "Project Genesis. Our greatest creation. Our greatest burden." The diplomat swallowed. "Will you help us? Will you save the galaxy?" The human commander appeared finally, standing on a hologram pad, tall, calm, expression unreadable. His eyes were tired, carrying centuries of silent grief. He looked at the envoy and said, "Humanity does not act out of revenge. We do not act out of pride. We act only for the innocent." The diplomat fell to his knees. "Please, there are billions of innocents." The human commander finally nodded. "Then they will not fall. Not while humanity stands." Those words broke every envoy into tears. Humanity was returning, but not out of kindness, and not out of vengeance. They were returning because they were humanity, protectors of the weak, guardians of the silent, and the one species who refused to let darkness rule the stars. And as the envoy ship left Terran Command to carry humanity's message back to the galaxy, every crew member felt the same overwhelming truth settle deep in their hearts. The humans were coming, and the Vroth had no idea what storm was about to fall on them. When the envoy returned from human space, the entire council and every news network across the galaxy watched with silent, shaking anticipation, because for the first time since the banishment, there was a chance, small, fragile, trembling, that Humanity might finally speak. The Dawn Seeker entered orbit like a wounded bird returning from a storm, its hull cracked by the pressure of human technology far beyond its design, its crew pale and exhausted, but with eyes glowing with something the galaxy hadn't seen in months. Hope mixed with fear. As the ramp lowered, billions watched through live broadcasts, holding their breath, praying, whispering, weeping. The envoy leader stepped out, fell to his knees, and whispered into the microphones, "Humans have agreed to act." His voice cracked as he added, "But not for us, for the innocent." Those words spread across the galaxy like a wildfire of relief and terror combined. Entire planets celebrated while others cried in dread, because everyone understood the deeper meaning. Humanity would not save everyone, only those who had never harmed them. And the guilty would have to face their own sins. Before the council could ask questions, a message appeared suddenly on every screen, every starship, every device, no request for permission, no warning. The screen flickered into black, then white, then formed into the symbol of the Terran star. A single burning line cutting through darkness. Then a human voice, calm, deep, emotionless, spoke. "This is Terran command. To all species of the galaxy. This is your only warning." In that moment, the galaxy froze. Shops stopped operating. Ships halted in space. Children turned toward their screens with wide eyes. Elders bowed their heads instinctively. The voice continued, "The Vroth have returned. You cannot defeat them. You were warned. You did not listen." Entire worlds fell silent in shame. Human space has remained quiet. Not because we fear the Vroth, but because we prepare for them. A chill went through trillions of hearts. You banished us. You chose fear over reason. Still, we act because innocence must be protected, even from the choices of the guilty. Council members covered their faces, shaking. Civilians cried, whispering apologies toward the sky. The voice grew colder. "We will not fight for the council. We will not fight for those who voted for our exile. But we will not allow innocent blood to spill." Across the galaxy, screens flickered and showed terrifying images. Earth's new fleets rising from the shadows of colossal shipyards, thousands of vessels lifting into the void with silent coordination. Massive warships shaped like blades, carriers the size of moons, dreadnoughts with shimmering armor that absorbed starlight like living shadows. Battle formations moved like they were alive, each ship locking into perfect positions with precision no alien species had ever achieved. The galaxy watched with trembling awe as the human armada prepared for war. The voice of Terran command continued. For centuries, humanity protected this galaxy without praise, without recognition, without fear. We did so because we believed unity mattered. The voice hardened. But when we needed unity, you chose separation. When we warned you, you dismissed us. When we offered help, you feared us. The council members openly wept, and the camera cut to crowds across thousands of planets kneeling in the streets, whispering apologies. The human voice continued, "This is not vengeance. This is not punishment. This is justice, for the innocent you swore to protect but failed." Then the screen shifted again, showing the Vroth armada advancing, hundreds of monstrous ships growing closer to the core worlds. The Vroth are coming. We will stop them. But hear this truth, and learn it well. The screen zoomed in on the glowing Terran emblem. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not run. The voice dropped into a deep, ancient tone that echoed through every speaker like the breath of a waking god. And humanity does not forgive easily. Panic and awe spread across all species. Some cheered through tears. Some curled into themselves in shame. Some simply whispered, "They're coming. The humans are coming." The final part of the message played, etched forever into history. "Stand down. Stay out of our way. Protect your civilians. Leave the Vroth to us." Then the signal cut. The screens went black. And across the entire galaxy, trillions waited with pounding hearts, understanding what had just happened. Humanity had given their final warning. Humanity had stepped onto the battlefield. Humanity had returned, not as allies, not as victims, but as the force the ancient universe once feared and the new galaxy desperately needed. And as the first human warship jumped into the front lines of Vroth space, a shiver ran through every living soul. The storm was here, and it had a Terran flag. The galaxy would remember the moment humanity returned for the rest of time, not through songs or celebrations, but through the trembling silence that fell across every world as the sky itself seemed to pull open, revealing something so immense and overwhelming that even the bravest species felt their hearts stop. It began on the shattered border of Sector 9, where the Vroth Armada advanced confidently, their monstrous warships burning everything in their path, believing nothing could stand before them. But then space rippled like a stone hitting water, and thousands of human ships emerged at once. No roar, no sound, just the terrifying silence of a predator arriving to claim its hunt. The Terran fleets materialized in perfect formation, rows upon rows of black-armored vessels glowing with faint blue veins of energy, each ship humming with a power no alien civilization had ever seen before. The Vroth paused, for the first time in centuries sensing something they had never felt: fear. And then humanity spoke, not with speeches, not with warnings, not with threats, with action. The first human dreadnought fired a single beam of white-burning energy, slicing through 5 Vroth cruisers like paper, and before their wreckage even had time to cool, human interceptors streaked through the flames, cutting down Vroth fighters with surgical precision. The battle didn't sound like war. It sounded like judgment. Human ships moved with unnatural coordination, turning, diving, striking as if they shared one mind. Every blast was clean, every strike exact, every maneuver flawless. The Council and civilians across the galaxy watched through desperate live feeds as the human armada tore into the Vroth like a storm of light crushing a wall of shadow. Children who once feared the dark now whispered, "The humans are here. We're safe." On Vexary Prime, where families had been hiding underground for weeks, entire crowds cried with relief when the first human ship descended through the clouds. More than 10,000 refugees gathered on rooftops, gazing at the silver hull as it hovered silently, releasing medical drones and supply pods with calm precision. The oldest elder fell to his knees and whispered, "Forgive us. We should have never sent you away." Meanwhile, the Council stared at their screens with a mix of awe and shame as they watched humanity fight with a level of skill and technology that made every other species look primitive. A Council commander whispered, "They didn't just grow stronger. They became something else." The truth was painful. While the galaxy wasted centuries arguing, humans spent centuries preparing, studying, perfecting. They had built weapons not for conquest but for protection. They had built fleets not for power but for responsibility. And now those fleets were saving the same galaxy that once exiled them. The Vroth, once relentless, began to retreat for the first time in their history. But humanity didn't give them the chance. Project Genesis activated. A blinding pulse of silver light expanded from the Terran flagship like a silent wave, passing through Vroth ships without harming a single innocent life. But every Vroth vessel caught in its path simply crumbled into dust, dissolving into particles of shimmering light. No screaming, no explosions, just nothing. The galaxy gasped, unable to understand how such a weapon could even exist, let alone be controlled with such precision that it avoided civilians hiding on stations, children trapped in escape pods, and even animals clinging to debris. Humanity had mastered destruction with mercy, something no other species had ever done. And as the Vroth panicked and scrambled into hyperspace, attempting to flee back to the void, a single human voice echoed across every channel, calm and unshaken. "There is nowhere you can run." Human ships followed them, tracking their movements with technology that bent the laws of physics. Every time a Vroth vessel jumped, the Terran fleet appeared seconds later, already waiting. Worlds watched in breathless silence as the humans drove the Vroth backward, system by system, star by star, until the enemy was cornered in the abyss of their home sector. There, surrounded by thousands of Terran ships, the Vroth broadcast a final message, a snarling roar, full of ancient pride and desperation. But humanity did not roar back. There was only silence from the Terran flagship. Silence that felt like the moment before a falling hammer hits its mark. Then humanity spoke only 4 words. This ends now. The final battle lasted 13 minutes. When it was over, the Vroth were gone. Not captured. Not scattered. Gone. Their threat erased from existence. And the galaxy stared at the aftermath in stunned disbelief. For a long time, no one knew what to say. Worlds that once mocked humans now held vigils to thank them. Children drew pictures of Terran ships. Soldiers whispered prayers of gratitude. Civilians wept when news announced, "The Vroth have been defeated. Humanity saved us." But the Council felt no joy, only shame. They knew the galaxy had survived not because of them, but because of the very species they had banished. In that moment, every being in the galaxy understood one thing with absolute clarity. Humanity had not just returned, they had risen far beyond what anyone imagined. And their silence had never been weakness. It had been transformation, preparation, ascension. As the human fleets drifted silently above the liberated worlds, engines calm, weapons cooling, the galaxy finally understood what humans had become. Not conquerors, not victims, not outcasts. When the last echoes of battle faded and the Vroth were nothing more than ashes scattered across forgotten space, the galaxy held its breath, trembling not from war but from the unbearable silence that followed, because now every species waited for the same answer. What would humanity do with its unmatched power, its unstoppable fleets, and its terrifying new position in the universe? Worlds across the galaxy watched the human armada lingering in orbit like a constellation of silent giants. Engines dimmed, weapons cold, their dark metal reflecting the light of stars they had fought to protect. On some planets, children stood outside at night, pointing to the glowing Terran ships and whispering to their parents, "The humans saved us," while parents whispered back, "Yes, and we nearly lost them forever." The council chamber once again filled with trembling leaders, but this time they did not wear robes of authority or ceremonial crowns. They wore plain, dark clothes, their heads bowed, stripped of pride and ego. When the human delegation finally arrived, their presence alone created a shockwave of emotion. Not because they came with threats, not because they came with weapons, but because they came. Humanity had chosen to speak, to break their silence, and that alone felt like a miracle. A single human representative stepped forward, a quiet figure with tired eyes and a calm expression, wearing no armor, no medals, and no sign of superiority, just a simple dark uniform with the Terran star on the shoulder. The entire council rose to bow, but the human raised a hand gently, stopping them. His voice was soft but carried the weight of every battle, every betrayal, every sacrifice. "The Vroth are gone." The chamber shook with relieved sobs. "Your worlds are safe." More tears followed, some falling heavily onto the floor, some silently running down cheeks of leaders who swore they would never cry. "But safety alone is not peace," the human continued. "Peace demands responsibility and memory." The council speaker fell to his knees, hands trembling, voice breaking. "We wronged you. We betrayed you. We cast you out. And still you saved us. Humanity, please, what will you do with us now?" The human looked at him for a long moment, long enough for the galaxy to suffocate on fear, and then spoke the words that would shape the next 1,000 years. "We choose mercy." Gasps erupted across every world watching the broadcast. Some fainted, some clutched their hearts. Some simply cried because they could not believe that a species with the power to erase the galaxy chose the harder path. Forgiveness. But the human was not finished. Mercy does not mean forgetting. Mercy does not mean trust. You will rebuild. You will correct your mistakes. You will honor the lives lost. The image on the screen changed, showing names, thousands of them. Victims of the Vroth, victims of council failures, innocent lives caught in the fire of arrogance and fear. Then the human's voice spoke again, quieter now, carrying a sorrow so deep it made entire planets fall silent. "Humanity suffered too, but we do not carry hatred into the future. We carry responsibility." And with those words, new screens lit up across the chamber, showing a new alliance symbol, 3 intersecting lights forming a star. "We will not rejoin the council. the human said gently. But we will build something new beside you. A second voice in the galaxy. A second pillar of peace. The galaxy erupted with emotion. Relief, gratitude, guilt, hope, everything at once. Humanity had chosen not to rule, not to conquer, not to punish. They had chosen to guide, to watch, to protect. Even the children watching understood that something enormous was happening. Something beautiful and terrifying at the same time. On worlds once scarred by war, human ships landed with supplies, healing technology, food, water, and compassion. Human engineers rebuilt broken star lanes. Human doctors cured diseases spreading across refugee camps. Human navigators taught species how to repair their failing beacons. And slowly, painfully, the galaxy began to heal. But at night, when the lights dimmed and the stars shone quietly, everyone remembered the truth. Humanity had not saved them for reward. Humanity had saved them because it was right. Meanwhile, far within human space, Project Genesis, now dimmed and resting, sat like a sleeping guardian, its work complete. The human fleets returned home, their silenced engines glowing softly, and the great barrier around human space slowly lowered, not entirely, but enough to show trust without surrender. Children on alien worlds cheered as the first Terran exploration ships visited again, bringing gifts, laughter, and kindness. For the first time since the banishment, the galaxy felt warm. But the Council knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Not because of their weapons, not because of their fleets, but because of their heart. Their silence had taught the galaxy fear. Their return had taught the galaxy hope. And their mercy had taught the galaxy what true strength looked like.